Hey everybody, this is Ralph hopping on a video. I want to talk about what is divination and how does it work? Because a lot of people out there, when it comes to divination of any sort, whether it be tarot cards, crystals, crystal balls, reading tea leaves, what have you, they have a very flawed understanding of what divination is. A lot of people think that divination is just fortune telling or predicting the future. And actually, I looked this up online just to kind of get my head around what the original definition of divination was. And the original divination, according to the etymological dictionary I found online, is the power of foreseeing or divine inspiration. So a lot of people get it half right because that first half of the definition, divination is the power to foresee. So a lot of people think, okay, you're just going to be able to see into the future and let us know what's going to happen. And actually, predicting the future, very, very flawed concept because the future is always in motion. It's always changing. When you change something in your present, it has a ripple effect into the future. So, yeah, trying to tell somebody what the future in their life is going to be with 100% accuracy is kind of difficult because you don't know how that person is going to react, what they're going to do, what they're going to change. If you see a pattern evolving and you warn a person that if you don't quit drinking, you're going to get a DWI. You see the pattern. You see the person driving drunk. And if that person takes no action, then yeah, that would be a good prediction. I would say that would be most likely the thing that would come about. However, if the person takes that warning, they heed that warning, they take action, they quit drinking, then yeah, the future outcome is radically changed. I always like to look at it this way, you are in total control of your future outcome. And by better understanding your present, you can take action to create the future of your choice. So that's a very empowering point of view, the way I see it, is that divination is not just about predicting the future, but it's understanding the present. And there's a deeper meaning to it than that. And this is the definition of divination that I operate from. Divination is having the ability to see God everywhere, in everything, and in everyone, and connecting to that power. And I think this is getting more close to the original definition of divination, divination being seen as divine inspiration. When you can place yourself, either consciously or unconsciously, in the presence of God, the divine source, then you have the ability to come to terms, to get clarity, to better understand what is going on now, how you can act to change things, and how you can create a better future for yourself, your family, and for others. And divination, properly understood as being able to see God everywhere, in everything, and in everyone, that is a very powerful leap, in my opinion, because there are a lot of people out there that believe in God. There are even more people out there who say they believe in God. And then there are others out there that say they don't know anything about God. They don't care. They don't think God exists. How could a kind, loving God let all these things that are now going wrong in the world? How could a kind, loving God allow this stuff to take place? But the common thread throughout most of the religious people, their thinking, the non-religious people and their thinking, and everybody else is that most people, whether they believe or not, tend to see themselves as being separate from God, and God being separate from the material world. Now, a more enlightened view, a more mystical view that we see reflected in both the canonical Gospels and in the Gospel according to Thomas, is that God is not separate from the world. The whole mystery of the incarnation of Jesus was God coming into the world in the form of a child. And what did Jesus say to his disciples about the presence of God? Don't seek the kingdom of God, over there or in buildings, or, if they say he's out there in the desert, or they say that he's here in the city, don't listen, because the kingdom of God is within you and around you. Now, what was Jesus saying in that saying? I believe it relates to a quote that we find in the Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus talks to his disciples and he says, "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Pick up a stone, and you have found me." Jesus telling his disciples that his divine presence is not just connected to him, not just found in the physical, earthly Jesus of Nazareth, but that divine presence is everywhere. It's part and parcel of the material world. Split a piece of wood, and I am there inside that piece of wood. Lift the stone, and you have found me, both in that stone, underneath that stone, around that stone. We've all been taught in Sunday school, if you were raised in Sunday school or you were raised in a religious household, you probably heard this saying, where is God? God is everywhere. And 12 years of seminary here. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Catholic school, Catholic seminary, Protestant seminary. I kind of ran the whole gamut. But I mean, that's the thing that they taught there too, basically. In other words, where is God? God is everywhere. They never really explained how that could be possible. But I mean, that is the common belief amongst a lot of religious people. But the significance of this flies right over the head of the vast majority of most religious people. They don't take it to its obvious spiritual conclusion or mystical conclusion. And that is, if God is everywhere, how is that possible? And if God is everywhere, how can we be separate from God? Because the vast majority of people on this planet view themselves as being separate from God. They have this, I think, crazy notion, and I call it crazy because, and I used to have it myself, but I call it crazy because this is the root of all of our spiritual and psychological illnesses. But they have this crazy belief that God is separate from them, separate from the physical world, separate from earth, separate from everything. And we have to go out there and we have to find God. We have to go on a search. We have to find God somewhere in buildings, in books, in mosques, in synagogues, in churches. We have to go out there, seek and find God. And what did Jesus say about that? If they say to you, the kingdom of God is over there, don't believe them. If they say the kingdom of God is out there, in the desert, don't believe them. Because I say unto you, the kingdom of God is within you and among you. I believe Jesus was saying, God is present. The energy of God is present within all the material universe. Within you, within me, within everything, within a stone, a nice little crystal here, nice little amethyst crystal that I like to keep around, within a pack of tarot cards, within a head of cabbage that you may have growing mold in your refrigerator. The divine energy is to be found everywhere, in everything. It is the building block of all materiality. And when you come to that realization, and this took me the longest time to really get my head around this realization, because I was raised to believe, like everybody else, that I was separate from God and that God was separate from the material world. And we had to go out there, we had to search, we had to find God, we had to look in books and look in buildings and look in other people and things like that. But then when you become aware that the presence of God is all around you, then you understand that the divine is not separate. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And you have the power to connect to the divine presence of your understanding and seek counsel. Everybody has an inner counselor that they can connect with, get advice from, get inspiration from. Everybody has this ability. The vast majority of people are unaware of its existence, and so it's like a treasure that is unopened. Most people never open it up in the course of their lifetime. But once you open up that divine treasure chest, you see the presence of the divine within you and within all material things. And then you understand, I can connect and get answers and get inspiration, get power from this divine source. And it's been said, when you understand the power that lies within you, you will never fear anything that lies before you. And the Gospels, the canonical Gospels, say pretty much the same thing. It's worded differently than in the Gospel of Thomas. But Jesus tells a parable. And the conclusion of this parable is this: whatsoever you do to the least of these people around you, you have done that unto me. Saying that the divine presence is within all people. And I would extend that thought and say, yeah, the divine presence is not only within all people, but within all things. Whatsoever you do to anything, that is what you do to God, because that is the divine. The divine is the building block that makes up all materiality. Now, how can we say this? Well, what do we know about the material world? There's a nice little book called The Kybalion that gets very deeply into this, saying that the universe is mental. The universe is mental energy. And what the Kybalion does, this was written in, I believe, 1913 or 1912, so it was before the advent of the first atomic bomb and atomic power as we know it today. But the authors of the Kybalion knew that all matter was energy. I think this was known for quite some time before they proved it by exploding the first atom bomb of the modern age. But all material matter is made up of energy. And that is something that was accepted as a truth. We now know it to be a truth today without question. All you have to do is watch an old footage of an atom bomb going off. That is matter being torn apart and energy being released. So yeah, all matter is energy. But where does that energy come from? And what kind of energy is it? And the Kybalion goes on to say, okay, this energy emanates from a divine source held into a certain vibratory frequency by a divine mind, and that this energy is actually mental energy of the divine, thought energy. We know that when we think, our brain will send out thought waves. There's electrical neurons being stimulated in your brain right now listening to this or listening to what's going on around you. We all have thought waves. we all have this mental energy. And there are even devices out there that have been developed and new devices that are being experimented with now that can pick up this thought energy and use it to allow people to, using only the power of their thoughts, manipulate things and operate machinery and things like that. Elon Musk is all over this right now with Neuralink. And even before Musk, other researchers were playing around with it with devices that you could wear on your head, or devices that were attached to you in some other way, not implanted in the brain, but something that you could wear. And yes, this truth has been known for a very long time, that thought is energy, that the material world around us is energy, but very few people have connected the two. And the Kabbalion does this beautifully. It's a well-argued argument, well-stated argument, in which the writers of the Kabbalion say that the universe is mental. All material matter is made up of energy, and that energy is thought energy emanating from the divine mind. And mystics throughout the ages have known this. 1 year in high school seminary, the rector of that school blew our minds. He was talking to our class during study hall, and we were talking a little bit about mysticism. And I forget now which mystic it was that said this, but I mean, Father Mullen, he really blew our mind with this one. He said that it's believed in mysticism that everything is a thought in the mind of God. And if God were to forget about you or anything else, you or that something else would just simply vanish. That is the power of God literally thinking the universe into creation. And what does the book of Genesis say? God spoke, and it came to be. Let there be light, and there was light. Let there be dry land, and there was dry land. Let there be clouds and skies and birds and all that, and so it was. And what is speech? Active thought. Speech is taking your thoughts, putting them into action, projecting them into the outer world. So yeah, we understand that everything is connected with God because God is the building block that makes up everything in the material world. That God is at the heart of everything. Like we talk about the atom being the basic building block of reality, and yet nobody's ever seen an atom. We can detect it. We can, using instruments, we can split the atom. We can accelerate atoms. We can split them apart. But I mean, what are atoms made of? Well, atoms are made up of energy. We know that. A lot of people will say that atoms are just energy alone. That what shows up as an atom is really where two energy fields cross, and at the point where they cross, that is the atom that we can detect. But I mean, yeah, basically science is telling us that everything is energy, but they're not telling us what kind of energy that is. Now, if we make that leap of faith, so to say, that leap of understanding that energy is God, and not just, a lot of people will think of energy as being mindless, stupid, but, without consciousness, without anything. It's like we burn electricity thinking it's just without consciousness, without any kind of, characteristics, except, if you touch it, you're going to get shocked. But if we understand energy as being the divine consciousness itself, thought energy that is being projected into the universe and manifested as the physical universe we see around us, well, then that tells us that we are not separate from God. God is part and parcel of me, of you, of this coffee cup here. God is within all things, in everywhere, in everyone, and we can connect to that power. And that's where we get to the second part of our discussion. Divination, as I understand it, is having the power to see God in all things. Now, once you have the ability to see God in all things, you can connect with God. And once you can connect with God, you can ask questions. You can gain inspiration. You can gain insights. You can give people more clarity about what's going on in their world. And by connecting to the divine both within you, within the people around you, you can actually give far better advice to people because you know the energy that's floating around them, making them up, deciding their actions, and you can tell them, okay, if you want to create a better future for yourself, you should focus on this. You should change this pattern, adopt a new pattern, things like that. And so, how divination works is that when a reader, an advisor, a counselor, a spiritual director, when they can connect either consciously or unconsciously with the divine within them and around them, and some people will do this consciously. There are other very good readers and advisors who don't really have this point of view, but they do it unconsciously. But yeah, they're able to tap into an energy and they're able to give advice from that energy. And I would argue that that energy is emanating from the divine source. It's God energy. Carl Sagan once said, we are all star stuff. I would say we are all God stuff. We are all made of divine energy. And when you can connect with that divine energy, wonderful things can happen. Beautiful things can happen. Miracles can happen. The problem is the vast majority of people do not see this connection and they miss out on it. Now, it's like a treasure that they carry within them. They never look inside and find it. They never open it up. And so they never see the beauty that is within them. They never see the power that is within them. But mystics and the small minority of people on this planet know this truth. Some can live in this truth on a daily basis. Others live in this truth from time to time, forget about it, fall back into the illusion of separation in the material world. But then when they're able to break through that illusory veil and begin to once again connect with the truth, then they're able to break out of that illusion of separation. But I mean, only the truly enlightened live in the presence of the divine 24 hours a day. Most of us fall into the illusion of separation and then break back out of it. And the vast majority of people never really come to this understanding. But I think that people that call themselves tarot readers, people that are giving advice, people who are giving spiritual counsel, when you are doing your work, when you are connecting with another person, trying to help them see what's happening within their life and how they can change things for the better, you owe it to them and you owe it to yourself to connect with the divine of your understanding, practice that form of divination, and this can be done using just your heart, knowing that if God is within you, you can connect within, and you can connect with another person, and you can give pretty good advice and help them out of their tough times. Or if you see that God is within, a crystal, you can gaze into a crystal and connect with God that way. Others will do it using tea leaves. Others will do it using tarot cards. Others will do it using books, like the Bible or the Quran or other sacred scriptures. And once you However you do it, just connect with the divine of your understanding, because once you do that, then you are empowered to be giving people the advice that they truly need. So, to wrap this up, what is divination? Well, it is the power of connecting with God and seeing God everywhere. And how does it work? Well, you just connect with the divine of your understanding using whatever tools that you're comfortable with, whatever tools that you use. If it's a deck of tarot cards, playing cards, crystals, or if it's even just your heart, connect with the divine and then let your advice flow from that connection. Because the way I like to see it, again, going back to another saying of Jesus, where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I within their midst. Where two people are meeting together, doing counseling, doing spiritual direction, doing a reading, be aware that there's another person there within your midst. And that is the presence of God, however you understand that. And so when you are giving advice, don't think that this advice is coming from you. Think of the advice as actually coming from your divine source, the divine energy that is within you, within all things, and let that information flow. Let that power flow. And when you do that, I would argue that is real divination. Not just fortune telling, not just predicting the future, but connecting with the power of the universe, understanding that you are a perfect manifestation of that power, and that that power is within all things, connecting to the power of the universe and letting the answers come from that position of power. And not just raw, naked power, but the power of love. Because what do the scriptures say about God? God is love, and those who love are of God, and God abides with them. So yeah, we're not talking about the power of ego, or just raw naked power, or the power of money. I can charge $100 an hour or $500 an hour because I have this deep connection. No, it's got to flow from the power of love, because God is love. And when you connect with God, you let that love flow, and you let a lot of other powers flow through you into the outer world. So yeah, practice real divination. Don't just pick up a deck of cards and think that you're going to be foretelling the future and being the great psychic. No, take your responsibility as a reader seriously. Connect to the divine and let your words flow from that connection. All right, this is Ralph signing out. Hope you found some value in this. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you later in future updates. Until then, Ralph signing out. Take care. Bye bye.